In today's real estate world, if you want to work with buyers, you need a signed buyer agency agreement. And that can create some real awkward conversations if you don't have an outstanding buyer agency presentation. So today's episode is going to teach you what to put in that buyer agency presentation to make it feel natural and normal as opposed to weird and pressured. Because if it does, you're not going to be working with buyers. If you're a realtor in today's market and you want to work with buyers, you know you need that signed buyer agency contract. And it's one of those things where you need a great buyer presentation in order to get people to do that. I would like to think that as a realtor, you are not, meeting a buyer. I don't know where you meet a buyer. Say you're at an open house and somebody comes in and they don't like that house, but you say, hey, are you represented by a realtor? And they say no. And you say, great, here's my contract, sign it. I'll be your realtor. I hope that's not what your buyer agency presentation looks like, because if it is, it's probably not working for you. It's probably super awkward, totally uncomfortable. And I wouldn't blame someone for not signing a contract with you. So what does that mean? It means you need a great buyer agency presentation if you want to work with buyers anymore. And you need to be able to explain your value. You need to be able to explain the process, and you need to be able to show that you have the ability to help them reach the goals that they have for themselves. So what does that look like? Well, today I'm going to tell you exactly what that looks like. So when you meet this buyer for the first time, obviously you start by exchanging some pleasantries or whatever it may be. I always like to start with a simple question, a real simple question. How long have you been in the market? What made you decide on starting your home search, right? Because that, to me, lets me know how serious they are, all right? And it lets me know what their goals and what their motivations are. I used to tell my agents all the time, if I was meeting a buyer for the first time and it was a couple and the woman was noticeably pregnant, I used to love those meetings because I already knew what their motivation was to buy a house, or I had a pretty good idea of what their motivation was to buy a house, because almost every time I've been in that situation, I would hear the same thing. We got to get in this house before this baby comes. And I'm like, all right, I get it. You know what I mean? That's a motivated buyer. That's someone who has a deadline. That's someone who has a goal. That's someone who knows what they're looking for. I always felt that was really easy to do a great job for those folks, right? But now, what does it talk about, right? Because you have this contract and sometimes it makes people uncomfortable. Well, the first thing you have to do, you have to explain how buyer agency works. Look, you need to be working with a buyer agent if you want to have a successful experience when it comes to buying a home, and here's why. One, if you're working with a great buyer agent, at the very least, we're going to set up all of your appointments for you. So what that means is no more looking at houses one at a time. We're going to set up a full day where we could go to see 4 or 5 houses, which is going to give you an opportunity, a much better opportunity to find what you're looking for and eliminate what you don't like really quickly. All right. The one at a time house thing, it doesn't work. We're going to see them in bunches. That's going to help you tremendously. Also, after that, what we're going to do is eventually we're going to find the right house. When we find that right house, when we have this buyer agency contract, it allows me to negotiate on your behalf. All right. If you work directly with a listing agent, their number one priority is getting the seller as much money for the house as possible. You can see that if you're someone wanting to buy that house, how that is obviously not in your best interest, right? Because you're looking to get the best deal possible on the house. So that's why you need to be working with a great buyer agent. They're going to negotiate on your behalf. They're going to get you the best price possible. They're also going to help you after you have an agreed upon offer, doing things like helping you set up your home inspection, all right, going over the inspection report with you, figuring out what's a big deal, what's not a big deal, the things that you're able to do, the concessions or repairs that you may ask the sellers to make as a result of this home inspection. Those are all the things a great buyer agent can do for you, okay? And it's important to know that in order for me to do that anymore, we have a signed contract, because this contract doesn't limit you. It allows me the opportunity to work on your behalf to serve your best interests, because that's my job as a great buyer agent, right? It's to protect your interests from start to finish. And it's important to make to distinguish with these home buyers that you're not just a tour guide, you're their advocate. All right. You're watching out for them. You're helping them make great decisions based on what they told you their goals were. And when I was working with buyers constantly, I always felt like it was my job, especially with first-time home buyers. I wanted them to feel educated, not pressured. All right. Because that's a big difference, right? You got to teach the process of buying a home many times, and especially with first-time home buyers. And I would always tell these first-time home buyers, I would say, look, here's what I can tell you. When you work with me, we're going to do everything the right way. I'm going to set up your appointments. I'm going to negotiate on your behalf. I'm going to do an absolutely fantastic job for you. We're going to have some fun. You're going to learn a lot along the way. And the truth of the matter is, by the time you're done buying a house with me, you'll know more than 50% of the realtors in the industry when it comes to buying a house. And that would be one of those things that they would laugh sometimes, they would smile. It would get them to relax, because it was one of those things where it was like, I'm not going to pressure you into buying you a house. I'm going to teach you the process. I'm going to show you what you should be looking for. We're always going to revisit your goals to make sure they are in fact your goals. And that way, when it comes time to make the decision to make the offer, you feel great about it. And when you're getting those keys on closing day, you're going to feel like the process was fun, it was enjoyable, and it was exactly what you needed it to be when it comes to buying a house. And when you explain the process like that, you have to feel confident enough to ask for the commitment. Look, based on what I told you, am I someone that you think can help you purchase a house? Am I someone that you want to work with throughout this process? And if they say yes, you want them to sign that buyer agency agreement, because it allows you to operate on their behalf. It allows you to negotiate for them. Another thing that it points out clearly is how you're compensated, all right? Because that's a big deal anymore, how realtors are paid. But all of that is laid out in the contract. Your buyers at that point should not feel pressured. They should feel like they know what they're signing. They should feel like they're prepared to enter the relationship with you. And what I will tell you is this, another reason why I love these buyer agency contracts. If you are a realtor that does exactly what you say you're going to do, if you live up to every promise that you made this buyer, asking for referrals at the end of the transaction will never be easier. And that's a great way to grow your business, to ensure that you continue to work with buyers, but also sellers. So if you want an outline on what my buyer agency presentation looks like in detail, shoot me a message, listen to this episode. It's going to make you better at your job, and it's going to make you a great buyer agent. Thanks for joining us for today's episode, everybody. If you want to hear more content, follow us at Real Estate Right Now Pod on YouTube. Once you're there, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And if you want to follow me directly, check me out. It's Dave Wychak at Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, all the socials that you're already using.